Hello everyone, and welcome to Frank Islam, Living the American Dream. I am Joan Nake, Professor of English at Montgomery College and Director of the Renaissance Scholars Honors Program and Director of the Athenaeum Symposia. We have here today Frank Islam, who has provided a wonderful grant to Montgomery College's foundation in order to support the Athenaeum Symposia. Welcome, Mr. Islam, and we are delighted to be able to talk with you.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. I know you have a busy schedule, and we appreciate your taking time out of your schedule to be here.
You're
Thanks.
most welcome.
As you know, Mr. Islam, Dr. Sanjay Rai, the Vice President of Montgomery College Germantown campus, asked me to develop a speaker series, which later became known as the Athenaeum Symposia Speaker Series. Over the last 2 years, we've had numerous speakers, such as Lily Ledbetter. We've had Peter Edelman, the author of So Rich and So Poor. We've had Assistant Secretary of State Robert Blake. We've also had Vade Ratner, who is the author of Shadow of the Banyan. And we've also had Ira Berlin, who is a noted scholar on United States slavery. And of course, one of our most noted speakers is you, when you spoke about your book, Renewing the American Dream. So we wanted to ask you a few questions about the Athenaeum Speaker Series. How do you think that this speaker series, this learning outside the classroom, will enhance the opportunity of community college students to become model leaders and to develop global leadership skills?
Let me begin by saying this, that you and Dr. Roy and the leadership of this great community college should be commended for providing this an important, invaluable opportunity to the Montgomery College students. And the speaker series that you mentioned, many notable names and distinguished names. There was the last year before and the one you talk about in this year's agenda. They will provide the perspective to the students to think outside of the box, outside the classroom box, that's the best way to put it. Mm-hmm. And also it will provide them and give them the valuable insight in terms of the global leadership that we need, what I consider in an interconnected world. Now, our education system puts a lot of emphasis on STEM, which is the science, technology, engineering, math. We need that skills. And that provides the technical skills and what I call them head skills. The humanity provides the leadership and heart skills.
That's a nice distinction, I think.
Nice distinction between head and heart skills. I don't know if you remember, there was an article that was published, I believe in month of June, by the National Academy of Humanities and Social Sciences, talk about making America, or expanding our educational system beyond the envelope of the STEM education. It's called Heart of the Matter. A very nice title, Joan. And those guys are pretty smart, so they come up with all kinds of nice titles.
Right.
And they talk about two items, and several items. The two items that really touched upon me and I thought was very well said. One was that we need to go beyond the science and technology, engineering, math, and to create the leadership skills. And we need to educate the Americans so that they can gain the knowledge and experience and skills necessary to thrive in the 21st century democracy. Very well said. I totally and wholeheartedly agree with their recommendation. So this symposium is important because it is essential part of the lifelong learning process, in which the lessons are learned outside the classroom, inside the classroom, and it is never-ending process. So hats off to you and to Dr. Roy and to the Montgomery College to make this happen.
We know that you have lived and thrived in the American dream, allowing you to be a caring, generous, and thoughtful philanthropist. Would you please permit our audience to understand the major steps in your journey to the fulfillment of the American dream? How you went from being an immigrant from India to being not only one of the wealthiest men in the United States, but also a noted author, an entrepreneur, and a philanthropist.
But let me talk a little bit about the American dream. I am a living example of American dream. My story should resonate well with the millions of immigrants across the globe and across this nation, and reaffirms the notion that anything can happen in America, and that America is indeed a land of opportunity. America has provided me an opportunity to succeed in business and provided me the education. So what touched me about this nation is inclusiveness and openness of America. They welcomed me with open arms. They allowed me to succeed. And these are the strengths and the values and the qualities that all of us can proudly and truly embrace. So your question was how I became successful. Well, I became successful by working on several points, several things that I would like to talk with you. The number one is getting good education, which forms the foundations. Number two is willingness to take a risk. And number three is becoming an entrepreneur. And number four is to hiring a good management and a skill team that shares with your vision and values. And the last thing is being passionate, being focused, being committed, being engaged, and involved in the business. So I came to this country when I was 15 years old from India, and I graduated from University of Colorado in Boulder. And that university provided me the education and a building block for me to become an entrepreneur. And after I graduated from college, I worked for a couple of companies, information technology companies here in the Washington, D.C. area, that provide me the skills and the knowledge and experience to start a business. I always wanted to own a business, also willing to take a risk. Then in 1994, I bought a company called QSS Group Incorporated for $45,000, which I couldn't afford. So my wife and I mortgaged our house to get that $45,000 from Riggs Bank, as you probably remember.
That truly was a risk, yes.
Yeah,
right.
It was a risk, and with the bank was at Riggs National Bank, and they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And with the hard work initiatives from my staff and my people, and all the people that work with me, I'm enormously grateful of their contribution. We were able to build a company from a 1 employee to 2,000 employees, from a $45,000 to $300 million. So success in business is a team sport. When people say how I became successful, I say it's not me, but we made it happen. It's a true statement. You have to surround yourself with the talented people who can make things happen and give them oxygen to breathe, and they will do the wonders. Then I sold in the year 2007 my company to Ross Perot, and that provided me the cash to create the foundation. And the foundation focuses on artistic causes, education, as well as policy in this country around the world. As I said in the beginning of your answer to my question, that America has made investment in me by giving me education, by providing me opportunity, by giving them ladder opportunity to succeed. It is high time to return that investment back to America.
Mr. Islam, it certainly is clear that through diligence and intelligence, you have achieved the American dream. Yet, in your new book, Working the Pivot Points to Make America Work Again, one of your topics is the possibility of a permanent underclass and the lack of upward social mobility, which is the major basis of the American dream. So I have two questions for you. What do you think is the cause of this problem of income inequality? And what do you think we can do to remedy this potential problem of a permanent underclass or a diminishing middle class?
Well, first of all, my second book called Working the Pivot Points will be available in the press and Amazon, hopefully sometime 15th of October. There's so much income inequality, injustice in America today. And let me highlight 3 causes of income inequality in America. It is heartbreaking in America about the income inequality and injustice we have. The first and the foremost to me is the wage stagnation in America. And the wage has not increased if you consider the inflation adjustment since 1970s. A family of 4 middle-class Americans, their income has declined for the last 4 years. In order to build America, we need the middle class. And the second thing is that the corporation in this country has reaped so much profit, but they're not reinvesting that money in the consumer or in the people. They're investing that money into their shareholders. If they continue this kind of a trend, I firmly believe that income inequality will persist in America. The corporation need to invest back into the consumer, back to the worker. And the second thing, I talked about 3 causes. The second cause that I feel that the most of the job that the middle class used to have, which is a lower skill job, they're either automated and they're gone overseas. We need to bring those jobs back to America. I call them inshoring the jobs. We already offshore it. Now it's time to inshore those jobs. And so these are the reasons for the income inequality, injustice in America. Now, we need to tackle this problem of income inequality in this nation. And we highlighted several things in our book about the income inequality and how do we tackle the problem. The first one is to job creation program that is a shared venture between the private sectors and the public sector, what I consider the public-private partnership. And the second thing is the increasing the wages, which is a $9 per hour, as President Obama proposed. Hopefully he cannot get through the Congress. And number 3 is we need to become innovative and creative, and we need to build our product faster, better, and cheaper. We can compete in the market globally as long as the competition is fair. In some cases, competing with China is not fair. So I outlined the 2 things, but I need to outline a couple of more things about income inequalities. We need to create a mechanism for and having some types of incentive to build asset in America. But we also need to continue the poverty program that we have in America, which is important for the people who are poor. But we need to broaden it, and we need to increase the effectiveness of that and increase the outreach program of that. We must educate the people. We must bring those jobs back that we lost it, and we must reinvigorate the middle class and reignite the manufacturing sector, as we said in our book.
Thank you so much. You know, you mentioned China, which leads me to the next question, which is about the global marketplace.
Yes.
And in many of your articles and books, you discuss global competition and the importance of American students developing an understanding of the global community in which they live and in developing skills they need to be global leaders. So would you please elaborate on why you think an understanding of global competition is so important and how the United States can remain or become a champion in this global competition?
The global competition is a stark reality in America today. And we said in our book, first book, Renewing the American Dream, and to be competitive in the 21st century, we began the section by saying that America has always enjoyed for a quarter of a century on the top of the world. It had a competitive advantage on all fronts after the World War II. But we have been challenged. We have been challenged by the emerging countries like what I call BRIC: Brazil, Russia, India, and China. So the question is, can America, despite the challenges that we face in America, be globally competitive and be a leader? Indeed, America can be and should be and is globally competitive. And we also have unrivaled diversity of a human resource. So we need to harness the natural resources as well as our human resources our human resource base to create America for the future generations. And I firmly believe, I believe very strongly, that if we do that, if we harness that, America will prosper in the future.
You wrote when you bestowed the grant for the Athenaeum Symposium, community colleges are pivotal to the future of America, and Montgomery College, through opportunities like the Athenaeum Symposia, is playing a significant role in creating the next generation of leaders for America. Could you elaborate on why you think Montgomery College and other community colleges are playing a significant role in creating the next generation of leaders for America?
I have a high regard for community colleges. I held them in high esteem.
We're pleased about that.
And community colleges play a pivotal role in creating the future generations of America. And the most important role they play is to equip the students with the experience and the knowledge they need to enter the workforce so they can get a job and so that they can sustain and contribute to the American dream. Mm-hmm. That is the very important contribution of the community colleges are. In addition to the fact that the students, that you educate the students so they can do some other thing, they can get advanced degree. But that is the very important part. In order for us to be competitive in the global marketplace, the community colleges has to partner with the industry so that we can create today's students for tomorrow's job. And President Obama has, in 2010, I believe, came up with the initiative creating the 21st century workforce.
Yes, yes. Which
is a partnership between the industry and the community colleges. And he said that if I remember correctly, not Montgomery College, but the community colleges
right.
are uniquely qualified and are in the best position to fill the middle gap
yes.
that exists in the employment sector. And that's what they do. They do well.
And I would agree about that. And in your most recent article, Students Alone, I think it was Undervalued and Underwater.
That is correct.
And you talked about the enormous
cost.
That's
the Huffington Post blog that I wrote.
Right, yes. You talked about the enormous cost to students and the liabilities they have when they leave college. I think one of the things that the community college does is the community college student does not have to pay as much and therefore does not have the kind of liability that you might have at other institutions.
I think the point, you're absolutely right. But the points that we all have to emphasize that the community colleges has a very pivotal role in filling the middle gaps
yes.
That exist in America. Not everyone can go to college and get advanced degree. We do not want them to get the advanced degree. We want them to have the workforce and to have the skills so that we can compete in the marketplace. Yes. And there's a lot of trade things that you can get. And in my own family, my family went to community college, but they have advanced degree as well. But my wife's family have a community college degree, and they were able to go and build a business and prosper because they learned from their experience from the community colleges. So the community college plays a very pivotal role in America and continue to play the pivotal role. So thank you for what you do for our nation.
Mr. Islam, in the last chapter of your book, Working the Pivot Points, How to Make America Work Again, you wrote a very pithy phrase, and I was just intrigued by it and was hopeful that you might expand upon it a little bit. The phrase is, American exceptionalism defeats extremism. Can you comment on that?
Indeed. We finished that chapter by stating the results of the 2012 election. It was a mandate of the middle of the road. It was a mandate for the middle class. It was a mandate for compromise. It was a mandate for moderation. It was also a mandate for the power of the American citizen to shape the America's future.
Yes.
And in addition to that, we concluded to saying that it was a mandate of America's exceptionalism over extremism, because extremism did not win.
Right. Yes. Yes.
That was the intent.
And I think that that's the power of this country.
This is the power and the genius of this. Is America's. We'll talk about that in our next question if you have something like that.
Yes,
I'm
I
sure
do.
you will have it.
Yes, I do. A follow-up.
About the America's exceptionalism.
Yes. Yes.
And that's how we began, by saying that the America's exceptionalism is really the power of the America's ordinary citizen who shape our future.
And I think that that gives us a positive future.
Yes.
Because the power is not all in one person's hands or in one group's hands. But that does lead us to the next question, and that is, at the very end of your book, you wrote, quote, "Pivot points treated properly should not be about endings or beginnings, but about being and becoming. They should be about listening and learning. They should be about realizing the full potential and possibilities for America and Americans." Now, these words sound very optimistic. My question to you today is, are you truly optimistic or are you pessimistic about America's future as a world leader?
Well, I'm very optimistic, as we have discussed throughout this interview, about America's future. Our best days are ahead of us, not behind us. But if I remember correctly, we began that the first part of that in our book by saying that America's exceptionalism, that we should give a lot of credit to its people level-headedness, its people, their genius. And in order to work the pivot point, it is important that we need the pivot people, which is the citizens and leaders. They both have to work for a common cause. And they need to commit themselves to work towards that goal, and they need to continue to work till the desired outcome is achieved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I firmly believe that the pivot points that we need to move America forward, and those are the things we need to do to move the America forward. But we need to work together, and we need to have shared goals and shared responsibility, and that involves the politicians, the ordinary citizens, and for all the people who live in this nation.
Well, I think that's very positive and very optimistic, and I appreciate that optimism, because I think we want the United States to stand tall and to stand strong. And with leaders like you, I think that it will.
Sure, it will, and that's the reason we're creating the next generations of American who will continue to take the America forward.
I totally agree with you. And I want to thank you today for talking with us about the global marketplace, about education, about living the American dream, which you have so wisely and wonderfully done, and about the obstacles that we face and confront, and how to overcome them, particularly income inequality through significant educational reform. I appreciate your wisdom, and born of experience and thoughtful reasoning. And we gratefully appreciate your being here today, and also for providing the wonderful grant to Montgomery College Foundation for the Athenaeum Symposia Speaker Series, soon to be called, on Tuesday, September 10th, the Frank Islam Athenaeum Symposia Speaker Series. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Joan, for your kind words.
Thank you.
I'm touched by your grace.